I'm sorry you went through that, here, let's make it right, or here, give me a call, or something that doesn't say, hey, you're wrong, but that says, hey, I hear you. And here's what I hope we can do about it. Just to say that you are paying attention to the Google reviews, because if you don't look at them, it's not like Google penalizes you, but it is better if you answer all the reviews versus not answering the reviews.
Welcome to Biz Help for You, the show that saves you the expensive learning curve by providing advice from industry experts in every facet of the entrepreneurial journey. Too many small businesses collapse. According to the U.S. Census Bureau, 20% fail within their first year, and less than 35% make it to their 10th anniversary. The goal of this podcast is to change that statistic. So if you're interested in learning more to be a successful entrepreneur, tune in today.
Now, let me tell you a little bit about my guest today. Barb Davids is the founder of Compass Digital Strategies, established in 2018. With over 25 years of experience in digital marketing, she specializes in providing direct and results-oriented marketing solutions for ambitious business owners. Barb is passionate about helping businesses optimize their digital presence without unnecessary fluff. When not working, she enjoys running with her dog, Stone. So Barb, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
I'm happy to have you here. This is going to be an interesting topic for many, I am sure. But before I get into questions on the subject matter, I would love just to ask you, how did you become involved with helping entrepreneurs with their digital marketing?
It started primarily because I was looking for help. So I was working in corporate for a while, and then I went over and did professional fitness photography part-time. And I was looking for information, and it was like, oh my gosh, this is so hard to find just for like this one specific thing. And I thought, well, if I'm in digital marketing and I was having trouble for a specific industry, how hard is it for the people who are actually in the industry?
Mm-hmm.
And so I started networking and working with other photographers. And like around the same time, I really was getting an urge to work anytime, anywhere, and have my own business. And so it kind of all snowballed together, and I started working and helping photographers with their SEO and content marketing. And then that grew into other small business owners as well. And then it just kind of, the universe pushed me out there in about, was it like 2019, I think, when I went full time with it.
Nice. So we're going to be talking Google business profiles today. So I would love for you just to explain, like, why is that profile so important for businesses to have? There's so many platforms out there now that people are on. This is one more, right? So why is this one so important?
One, because it's free. Two, because it's easy. And three, because Google loves Google.
Right.
So it is a very underutilized tactic. And I think that it's worth exploring because it takes really minimal effort to update it and optimize it. So you can get out there and optimize. It's a free listing basically from Google, and it allows you to, when people are searching for your service, to come up maybe in the maps area. Now, some of us don't have our addresses, of course, but you can hide your physical address and just come up like in the area of the city. So you're really catching on to the people who are looking like right around your vicinity, but also it can bring some traffic. I've had clients who aren't necessarily serving any like one area, but it can bring traffic from wherever they are to your website, because you get a website button that clicks over to your website. So it's just another added channel, but it's very, like I said, very minimalistic. It's not hard to do. I would even say you could optimize it within a half an hour if you really know your brand and you set up a few things, and then maybe send a picture to it like once a week, or even a post or something like that. They kind of have what's called a post, like a what's new or an event. And if you just do one of those to kind of show that you are active on the channel, it kind of lets Google know that you're still out there. So that's like the really core of it. It's easy, it's simple, it's free.
Mm-hmm. So can you go into a little bit more detail about how to actually set up, this profile, and, especially if someone's a new business and they're like, I'm just confused, I don't know what I should be doing. Like, what do they do?
Very easy. They go to, well, I can't remember the exact URL. I always forget it, but I just Google it. So I Google business profile, and then you can plug in your name. And if it sees you, you can claim it. Now, if it doesn't see you, you can add it, and it'll ask you and prompt you for some different things like your address. So don't be afraid though, go ahead and put it in there. And then it's going to ask you for like your phone number, your services, who do you serve, some different setup things. And you don't have to do all of them right away either. You can just do the bare minimum that it asked you for, because what it's going to do after you do that initial start is it's going to say, okay, well, we need to verify who you are first. Because like a lot of things in this digital marketing world, it was abused. And so people were using tactics that weren't true. And so now they have to basically approve you. So you just get a either postcard in the mail. Sometimes they do a phone number authorization, but there's a way that it does it so that it knows who you are, and they can be like, okay, you're true. You're not like just some scammer trying to have a listing out there. Once you get verified, then you can go through and optimize it. And the main spots that you want to optimize are your description, which is a very, very big deal. There's only so many characters, but it's one of the things that Google looks at when it's thinking about whether or not to serve up your listing to the people searching or not. Your name, which should be true of whatever your business is. So don't put any extra keywords in there or any fluff stuff, just your plain business name. And then the other thing, which you don't really have control over, but you have a little bit of optimization, you can put like what city you're in, or even United States or something like that, but it's by vicinity. So a lot of the times what I like to do is like go out, take pictures. I don't know if this really works. This is just kind of my like insides that thinks that it can see where I'm at. So sometimes I would like to be out somewhere in my city, take a picture, and because you can see the background of photos, upload that to my Google business profile, and maybe it will see, hey, I am in that city, and just kind of a little hack that I can't prove, but I like doing it.
Well, that sounds like a helpful tip though too, because like you said, I mean, Google does go around periodically and take more pictures of things so they could have their Google satellite stuff. And so if they see like you're at this store, or you've got this little area behind you, and they recognize it, right? It just proves. So you could be onto something.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So can you talk about maybe some strategies to encourage customers to leave positive reviews on their business profile? And what can we do? We don't always feel comfortable asking, but what is it that we could do to maybe prompt them to leave those reviews?
Yeah, I can speak very highly to this because I feel really icky asking, but I know it's important. And I've used a template that my copywriter actually gave me. And it's a nice way to be like, hey, we've worked together. And with my industry too, and this might be some other industries, service-based, where things don't happen right away. So you're kind of like, oh, should I ask? But then you're like waiting until like 6 months, a year, or like whatever the project is. And then it feels like it's kind of off. But you can just ask people like, how did you feel like working with me? And usually what I like doing is sending the ask, but then giving a prompt of like, okay, here's a couple of things you could answer just to help make it easier. Because a lot of the times when people don't answer, they're just too busy. They don't know what to say. And so if you give them a couple of the prompts, they're more likely to do the review, which is super helpful. And then the other thing is provide them with the exact link. So when you're in your Google business profile, there's an area that says get reviews, and it will give you a direct link so that you can provide it for the person. So all they have to do is just click, and then they can start typing, and then there's the review.
Well, I think the prompts are helpful too, because I believe a lot of people just aren't quite sure what to say either, and they want to help. And of course they are busy. And so for them to have to sit there and think through like, well, what is it that I want to say? How do I go about expressing this? So if you do have maybe a couple questions, like what were you experiencing, before you came to me, and how did that, the results affect you, or something like that too, so that they can answer that quickly. And like you said, even that direct link, so they don't have to search, those are all good tips to help them just get right there and leave that information, because we need to make it as easy for them as possible.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So you talked about optimization on the business profile page, but a lot of people may not understand exactly what that means or how to do it. So can you maybe go into a little bit more detail on what is it we need to be doing to optimize that profile?
Yeah, it's setting up what I like to think of it is it's setting up things on your profile. I'm a very technical person. I say things a lot, so just stop me if you need to know more. But the different areas of your business profile, and make it so that it's easier for Google to see the profile. So for example, that might be the description. So to optimize the description, you'll want to use words that people are using to find your service. So I use, for example, SEO and content marketing. Photographers might be using family portraits or something like that. So whatever people are searching for, you want to try and do that, but in a natural way too. Like it doesn't need to be only just those keywords, but something that you would use and feel good about on your website. You can take like a version of that or a paragraph and put that on your description of your Google business profile or your about page. That might be another thing you could take it from. Another piece of it is your categories. So there's a spot for primary category and subcategories. Your primary category is one that really gets looked at. So if you aren't in the right category, you might not be showing up, or it might pull up for the wrong times for the wrong people. So if you are a bookkeeper, for example, you'll want to put bookkeeping or accountant or something that's related. Photographer, there's a couple different ones. So you have to put which one you think is most relevant to what you do, because some of us, we do multiple things. So we want to pick the one that's the most relevant. And then the subcategories, you can put other services in there. And I think you can even type them in without them being in the category. But the best practice is not to do more than 2 or 3. So if you add like 20, that's not going to do your profile any good. It's not going to like make you show up more or anything like that. Those are the big ones. And then I like doing the what's new post every week or so, or even every month, just to say, like, what can I do? It's like a blog post, maybe. You can put like a tip out there, or you can put like an event that you went to. Here's something that people don't realize. So there's also like events in there. You can put events in there just as another way to show activity or to even maybe come up, but you don't actually have to throw the event. You could actually just be attending the event and actually say that you went there, but put it on your profile. And
Interesting.
I'm not sure if that's a no-go thing or not, but it's just something to show activity, I think, is really what the game is, because Google's biggest thing with the profile is proximity. So like if I'm sitting here, somebody in New York might not come up on my maps. Now, it's possible they still could technically, but for the most part, it's proximity.
Right.
So you're trying to get like the people that are around you. And if you think there's nobody around you, then maybe it's not the right marketing method. But I've seen a lot of people with like not a specific local presence where it's done good for them to get traffic to their website.
Well, and I was going to ask you, which you started talking about too, like what should people post? Because you did talk about, adding some content. And I think people probably would have been thinking, like I said, blog posts or, other things business related, but you're talking about other things that aren't necessarily even business related that could potentially still help drive traffic to them, like you're attending an event, and maybe that's not even related to your industry or something too. So that was an interesting like tidbit. But if someone does want to still like build up like their brand using that, like what are the types of things that you would recommend that will help them, not just saying I'm going to an event or I'm hosting an event, but is it on their blog? They should just stay business related. Like what do you see works basically is my question.
It does vary based off of industry and what your brand does. I have seen actually people do memes on there. I don't personally do that. I don't think it's my brand in that particular channel. I'll do memes all day on Instagram, but I won't do it on Google Business Profile. Because I feel like when somebody's typing in SEO or content marketing services, and they'll think about like whatever somebody's typing in for your brand, if you showed up in maps, what would you hope would come up? And for me, I think it's more about sharing information about how-tos, because a lot of people are looking on how to do stuff. And or maybe it's a behind the scenes. People love behind the scenes. So I don't mind doing that either. And so I think it's definitely more of a personal preference and question of how to balance that. You could almost take it though, kind of like a general marketing stance and say, okay, I'm going to do 80% like info and 10% behind the scenes and 10% sales, whatever that pie makeup looks like for you. You could do the same thing on the Google Business Profile that you would say do for Instagram. And you can even do videos too. But again, it's not one of those channels where I think it's a large traffic driver. I just think it's a nice mix to add in with everything else that you're doing.
Hmm. And is there some place on there that you should maybe list other platforms that you're on? Like maybe if you have a LinkedIn profile or something, or is this really just put your general business information and no other like links to anything else?
No, yeah, there's actually a whole social profiles area in there. When you go in there, there's actually quite a bit of few things that you can fill out. So there's also the social profiles, which is kind of a newer one. I think it was like a couple of years ago it came out with it. So if you have those, fill those out, those links. There's also like a whole attributes area. Now, people like restaurants and hotels have different setups than, say, service providers. So when you go in, depending on what your business is, you may get a different set of attributes to choose from and or different back end things to do. But like, for example, if you're veteran owned, it'll say you can choose that. If you're women owned, you can put that in there, what kind of payments you take. So all of those pieces, there's quite a few like different areas that you can go in, but those by themselves matter more for when somebody lands there so that they can get to know you better versus Google using that as a indicator of who to show or who not to show.
Mm-hmm. Well, and earlier we asked, the question, how do you get customers to leave reviews? And obviously those are customers that we've interacted with and we're hoping, that they have had excellent experiences with us and want to leave 5-star reviews. But what would you say to the person who says maybe they had a review from someone, maybe it was a restaurant and someone wasn't satisfied or, whatever it is? How do they respond to the person leaving something that maybe isn't a 5-star review and still look professional at the same time?
Yeah, that's such a hard one, right? Because we're like, I got a bad review. I'm going to say this with a grain of salt because everybody's going to take it differently. But I think what you have to understand is that some people can leave reviews. This is where the catch is, right? We don't have control over somebody else leaving a review on our profile. We also don't have the ability to just plain remove them. And that's where we have to try to find some inner compassion and be like, oh, okay, I get this person was upset for whatever reason. Because sometimes they can leave reviews without even actually working with you. But because they had an interaction with your business, it's considered customer service. And so that's what's allowed to leave them. They can leave a review. And while you can't remove them specifically, you can ask Google to take them down, or you can flag them and see if Google will remove it for whatever reason. So, but the thing is, if you do that, you miss the opportunity to really show your customer service, I think. So if you can respond in a way that's compassionate to say, hey, I'm really sorry that you had this. That's not what we hope that you go through. And I'm not a copywriter by any means. I have this templated out somewhere, but I'm sorry you went through that. Here, let's make it right. Or here, give me a call, or something that doesn't say, hey, you're wrong, but that says, hey, I hear you. And here's what I hope we can do about it. Just to say that you are paying attention to the Google reviews, because if you don't look at them, it's not like Google penalizes you, but it is better if you answer all the reviews versus not answering reviews. Now, this is a caveat because I think in Australia, you don't want to encourage that because there's something with some of the industries over there. So sometimes this could be by industry, by country too. So keep that in mind. But yeah, so you do want to do that. And then, it's probably the best way is just to show compassion with it. I know it's really hard. And there's studies out there that have shown, like, if you see a review, like a bunch of reviews, and they have 5 stars, are you more apt to believe all the 5 stars? Or are you more apt to believe a review that has 4.8 or 4.9? So it's okay if you have a 4.8, 4.9. It's not the end of the world, because I feel like consumers also have a better handle on this. Sometimes when somebody's really upset, they'll go to a review area. You see it on Amazon, you can see it on Google. People take their anger out in the review, but you can tell they didn't even work with the person, or what they were mad about was like seriously not even related. So take that before answering, consider that. On the flip side, I will say that sometimes Google reviews don't show. So I have a client that sometimes we have to kind of kick Google in the butt and be like, hey, because what happens when when people send a review, it could get triggered by the automated system that Google has. And for some reason, it might get flagged as inappropriate or something like that. So Google holds that review and doesn't show it on your listing. So what you can do is there's a link that you can go to and say, hey, Google, I got a review from so-and-so. Can you please just check and see if anything's, not being pushed to my profile for some reason. So when you send that form through, they'll send you an automated email. But then here's the kicker. They say at the bottom, if you still need help with this, reply back to this email and then we'll help you. And the first time I ever went through this, I didn't see that because I always think automated emails are automated emails. Like, okay, you've got my email, you've got my thing. Nope. They were making you go the extra step. And you have to actually click again and say, yes, I need your help. And then they'll go and do it. And most of the time they'll unsuspend, I don't know what the word is, but unsuspend the hidden reviews.
But that would only work if you know that they left the review too, right? So how would you know if someone left a review, but it wasn't showing unless your customer was saying, by the way, I left you a 5-star review, you did a great job?
Yeah, that's the only way to know. You have to be really on top of it. I have a client who has somebody who manages that because there's quite a few of them per day that they send out. And they literally send an email, they put it in a spreadsheet. And then I don't know how she actually knows. I think the people actually write back and say, hey, I left you the review. Or maybe she saw it come through somehow. Maybe they screenshotted it. Sometimes that happens too. So it is kind of a catchy game. Like, okay, you do have to know about it. Or if you just feel like it, I mean, it doesn't hurt to ask. Just say, hey, somebody told me that they left a review, but I couldn't get a screenshot. Can you just check and see if there's something there? And usually they will.
And I don't know if this is true or not, but I have heard also, like, if people are leaving 5-star reviews or 1-star reviews, again, like a lot of times either Google doesn't believe it or people don't believe it because people believe, these people are just being paid to do 5-star reviews, or people are trying to target a business and purposely bring their rating down by leaving 1-star reviews. What is your take on that? Like, what experience have you had or seen with people with those 1 or 5-star reviews? And should we really leave a 4 point something instead of 5? Or, what do you think about that?
Well, I hope we all do what we think is right. And whatever we truly feel is the star rating that business deserves, I hope that we're doing that. I do know it is a problem out there. And it has been ever since Google Business Profile started with their whole postcards and verification and everything. I do think it's also by industry. Because I will tell you, just as a renter, because I rent my apartment, and rental agencies and rental places and management companies, I know for a fact, because you can tell, well, I can't say for a fact, right? I can just tell, like you can tell when you look at their reviews, the 5-star ratings, and then you get in and you move into the place. This was not a 5-star rating place. Like it's a no-brainer. And on top of it, just the wording that they use. Normal people wouldn't use that wording. And people have these companies that really are getting sophisticated about how to really leave the ratings as well. And I think there's a learning process because you can't do it all at once. That's another thing. So if you have a whole bunch of people that you want to, I'm going to go on a side tangent here so I don't forget this point because it's a big deal. If you do start asking a lot of people for reviews, make sure you do it in kind of spurts, not all at once. Because if it does get like in a whole bunch, it could look like spam, and then that would probably get your site penalized or your listing penalized. But I think it's more industry prevalent, and I do think it's more in the service-based business. So like the management companies, like I said, there's also the plumbing industries, like those types of home services. But I do feel like Google's getting a better handle on it. I've heard less and less over the past few years, so hopefully it's kind of dying down because I think business owners are getting smarter because they hire these companies and the idea that, well, it's not even that they didn't know. I think they were like business owners didn't know at the time, like a few years ago, like if you bought a service and they were like, I'm going to help you get 5-star reviews, but they don't really ask how or why it's being done. And then you have this service doing it that's like flooding it with fake reviews. The business owner just doesn't know any better, like, because they're not in there every day. They're not doing digital marketing. So I think it's also just an awareness issue.
Well, I know this was on Facebook rather than Google, but I had someone reaching out to my business saying, I'll get you, how many of our reviews for so many dollars. I'm like, no, thank you. I only want real customers to leave reviews. And then he sent an image showing like his picture and leaving affordable bookkeeping review. And I was like, you're still not a customer, right? Like I only want real customers leaving real reviews. So no, thank you. It took like 3 or 4 times of telling him, no, thank you. But obviously there's other people out there that would just be like, oh, okay. So nowadays I think even as consumers, sometimes we're going to doubt those reviews. And like you said, maybe you could tell from the wording, but that's the downside of all of that too, is like, there could be some that are really, they're all honest, but people might still have that doubt, like, well, maybe, they paid for someone. So I think that's hard to really balance that out and have people really know that these are true reviews.
Yeah. And I think that's where we go to the website, right? Like then we go there and then we check them out and see what's kind of going on and see if it kind of matches. And then like we check socials. I know we do that. Now we can check ChatGPT and say, hey, what do you know about this company?
Right. Yeah. Well, hopefully businesses really have the integrity and only want to have those real reviews. And hopefully the listener who's listening, that's what they want to. But I do want to ask you too, one more question regarding like the profile and managing it and keeping an eye on it. Like, are there metrics that we should be monitoring, and how do we monitor those to know if we are really reaching the audience that we want to find?
Yeah, I love this question because there's a trick to this. So by default, when you set up your website on the Google Business Profile, you put your whole website address in there. By default, when they click to the website to your Google Analytics, it shows up in the organic channel area, which that's great. It's organic technically, right? You're not paying for it. It's coming up when somebody does a search, that kind of thing. But you can't tell that it's coming from Google Business Listing specifically. And that would be helpful to know, like, are they coming from organic search or are they coming from the listing? So what you can do is you can add a bit of tracking after your URL that tells Google it's coming from the Google Business Listing. And I'll make sure to get that for you so you can put it in the show notes. It's just a general, like telling Google there's like special tracking that says this campaign, this channel, that kind of thing. So when you do look in the organic channel of your Google Analytics, it will show the medium of Google listing versus just the organic search engine. So, and that's helpful to know because maybe they are coming to all your organics coming from only your Google listing. Or like in one particular case, when we started working with a client and we started doing posting, we could tell that there was an increase. So like they had been tracking it, but it wasn't until we actually started posting. And then you could see the effects on the other side. So you can see if they were downloading the thing or if they were doing whatever. Oh, and a side note, with some of those event posts and some of the updates posts, you have the option to put a link for more information. Those tend to not get that much traffic. So if you do put one, do make sure to put a tracking link on it so you can find out if people are coming from it, but you're not going to get a lot of traffic from that as opposed to the actual website button on your listing. That one drives more traffic. And then in terms of the listings or the other statistics, it does have in-platform numbers. So you can go into the reports area of Google Business Profile and it'll tell you what people are searching where your listing comes up. The kicker to that is it's not very helpful. Like it tells me this word and it tells me how many times my listing showed up. But it doesn't tell me in comparison to a previous month. It doesn't tell me, did they go to my website? It doesn't tell me if it's up or down. It doesn't tell me anything other than that. So, and really my whole goal is to get leads on my website or like downloads or something. So depending on if I'm doing something to the newsletter or to a download or what my clients are doing, I want them to come to the website. And then I want them to do the thing. And that's really what matters to me. So I don't really look at the Google Business Profile reports as much. It's interesting to look at occasionally, but if you want to keep track of that over time, make sure to download your report, put it in a Google Sheet or something, because it won't keep it for like 16 months or something. I forget what the number is, but it only keeps it for so long and it doesn't do its own comparison. So you kind of have to do your own thing.
Okay, perfect. Well, this has been informative on this topic, but I know we're coming to the end of time we have together. So I wanted to ask if you have an offer that you would like to extend to our listeners. And if people want more information, they need to connect with you, how do they find you?
Yeah, so if people are having trouble with SEO and content marketing and they're just like, I don't know what to do, I do have a free service. It's called the SEO Power Up Plan, and that is available in all the details on my website, compassdigitalstrategies.com, and that's where you can find my podcast and anything that you want with SEO and content marketing. There's something for everybody there.
Perfect. Any other way that you want them to find you, like your Google profile or LinkedIn or anything?
No, the website is the best place to start.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for being a guest on my show, talking about this topic today. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me.
And to the listener, if you enjoyed today's topic and you want to hear additional information, you can find access to exclusive content in the show notes. Thank you for tuning in today. Would you please share this episode with those you know and leave a review on your favorite platform? And if you find our show informative, would you consider being a financial sponsor to help me continue my mission to educate business owners? A link is located in the episode description, and no amount is too small. I'd really appreciate your support. If you are interested in connecting with our guest and receiving the offer they had to share, a link to our resource page is in the show notes. Finally, if you have any bookkeeping or payroll needs, reach out to us at 310-534-5577 or contact@abandp.com. My team and I are eager to assist you. Until next time, have a great day.
Thank you for listening to Biz Help for You. Please join your host, Candy Messer, again next time. Have a terrific day.